African literature. Now let us have a glance of the African history and literature. Africa is a land of beauty. Not only is it diverse naturally, but it also offers a very colorful literary tradition. Africa is also considered the world's second largest and most populated continent, divided into sub-regions: North Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, and Southern Africa. It is home to 54 countries, 10 small dependent territories still controlled by former colonial powers, and 2 disputed territories. Dated about 5 to 2.5 billion BCE, fossils and skeletal remains were discovered in the Rift Valley and surrounding areas. This led to the theory that humans originated from Africa. Also, in 600,000 to 200,000 BCE, human species originating from Africa spread throughout the continent, Asia, and Europe. This human species called Homo sapiens. These are hunter-gatherers capable of making crude stone tools. In 2300 to 2100 BCE, the earliest written creation stories on papyrus are the Heliopolis creation narrative of the Kemetic priest of On. Kemet is the ancient name of Egypt, and the Memphite declaration of the deities. Africans have mostly oral literature. Like in other ancient cultures, African orature is created and transmitted orally as part of dance and music. African oral arts genres include proverbs and riddles, epics, oration and personal testimony, praise poetry, songs, chants and rituals, legends, and folk tales. All these have religious, artistic, and social functions. The African Empire. The expansion of the Roman Empire from 300 to 700 AD marked the rise of Asia or Ethiopia and the African conversion to Christianity. However, in 610 AD, Africa witnessed the advent of Islam. So since the 700 AD, roughly 14 million Africans were sold through the Arab slave trade. And the rise of Islamic empire in Africa influenced the early written literature of sub-Saharan West Africa. The African slave trade and European imperialism. So in the 18th century marked the height of Atlantic slave trade and was considered the Black Holocaust with a slaughter of 28 million Africans. One of the first slave narratives in English, written in 1789, was the interesting narrative of the life of Olaudah Equiano, or Gustavus Vassa. Slaved from Nigeria to the United States, Olaudah wrote an autobiography under the pseudonym Gustavus Vassa. This fueled the abolition movement in Europe and the United States. In the 1880s, writers justified the concept of Africanness, which then led to the rejection of European culture and literature. South African Olive Trainer wrote the novel of The Story of an African Farm in 1883, which is considered as a pioneering work about race and gender. And Shaban Robert of Tanzania was East Africa's leading Swahili poet and essayist. He wrote Kusa Dikika, or To Be Believed, in 1951, which is an allegory patterned after Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. In 1952, Nigerian writer Amos Tutuola was published in London through his work The Palm Wine Drunkard, as an adventure tale from Yoruban oral traditions. Tutuola's work was written in African English. Now let's move along to the African rather proverbs and poetry. The African literature is a body of literature of or from Africa, including oral and written literature. The African oral literature called orature, coined by Ugandan scholar Pio Zarimo, are in the form of prose, verse, and proverb. The Nigerian writer Chinua Achebe wrote "And Things Fall Apart." Among the Igbo, proverbs are the palm oil in which words are eaten. Palm oil is an essential ingredient in African food and is used and given as presents on special occasions. Here is an example of an African proverb. Atika mutusi inda lohega mwana. It means in English, the parent who corrects his or her child with a rod does not sin. This proverb comes from the Bango group of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Correcting the child with a rod implies discipline. Discipline tells the child the appropriate behavior, what is and what is not to be done. Hence, the proverb suggests that disciplining a child is necessary for the child's welfare. One of the most famous contemporary poems is Africa in 1957 by David Diop. He wrote during the Africa struggle for independence.